mathematicians. Welcome to part 2 of our 100 NBH and PhD problems video series. In this video, we see the problems from 21 to 40. Okay. Let H be the subgroup generated by the two cycle 1 2 in the symmetry group S3. We want to calculate the normalizer. Okay. Now we know a result that every subgroup is a normal subgroup of its normalizer. Okay. So we use this result. So first we see what are so n of h is a subgroup containing h, and that n of h is also a subgroup. Okay, now what are all the subgroup of S3? So you take any of these two cycles and you add identity, that will give us three subgroups. Okay, in among these three subgroup, only this subgroup that is equal to h, that contains h. After that there are two more subgroups. One is A3. Okay, so that is consist of identity element and these two three cycles. Okay, so A3 means even permutations. Any three cycle odd cycle is a even permutation, so these form A3 and our full S3. Okay, now if you noticed, S3 in the only subgroup of S3 and the subgroup itself, they are the only subgroup containing H. Okay, but its normalizer cannot be equal to S3. N of H for this H cannot be equal to S3. That will mean that this is a normal subgroup of S3, but for S3 identity element, singleton identity, and A3 S3, these are the only normal subgroups. In particular, you can verify that this is not a normal subgroup. Okay, therefore n of h is not equal to S3, and there is only one other subgroup which possibly contain h, that is h itself. Therefore n of h equal to h. This is one argument. You can come up with maybe many other similar arguments also. So let's move on. So let G be a group which of the following statements are true. The normalizer of a subgroup is a normal subgroup of G. So we just saw that in this first problem, for a normalizer of this subgroup is itself, but this is not a normal subgroup of S3. Therefore, we get the first option is wrong. Then the center of G is a normal subgroup. Yes, that is true. You can just directly verify. It is a very simple problem. If H is a normal subgroup of G and it is of order 2, then H is contained in the center of G. Yeah, this is a very nice result. Very simple but very important result. Let's see how to prove this. It's a very quick proof. So we claim that H is contained in center of G. We assume that H has only two elements, E and an element H. Okay. So now you consider this element H, which is not equal to identity. To prove H is contained in the center, identity element always commutes with every element. We claim that H commutes with every element of G. So now by using the normality property, if I take any G belongs to G, G inverse will belongs to H because H is a subgroup. Okay, this implies that, but H contains only two elements. This element either should be equal to E or should be H. So we get so if G inverse equal to E, that means that H equal to E. But we have taken H not equal to E from H. Therefore, this is not possible. So we should get G inverse. This element should equal to the other element H. So G inverse equal to H means that GH equal to HG. Okay, therefore this H commutes with the arbitrary element of G. In particular, H belongs to center of G. Okay, yeah. So this option is also true. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. So which of the following are prime ideals in the ring C01? So set of all continuous function and close 0, 1, which vanishes in the closed interval 1 by 3, 2 by 3. So some ideal is a prime. Any ideal we say it is a prime ideal if whenever the product belongs to the ideal, either one of the elements should belongs to the ideal. Okay, so to prove ideal is not a prime ideal, what we do, we prove that the product is belongs to J, but neither F belongs to J nor G belongs to J. Both these elements are not belongs to J. That is our idea. Okay, so we claim that this first ideal, it is an ideal for sure. This is not a prime ideal. So let's consider this function F. Okay, so it goes, maybe it is from at 0 it takes 1 by 2, and 1 by 3 it goes 0. In the interval 1 by 3 to 1 by 2 it is 0. Then after that it is increasing to 1 by 2. Similarly, you consider this continuous function. Okay, now if you take the product of these two functions, So since f takes value 0 here, fg also takes value 0 here. Since g takes value 0 here, fg also takes value here. In particular, the product will be 0 in the closed interval 1 comma 3 comma 2 comma 3. But individually, this function is not vanishing here and g is not vanishing here. Therefore, they are not belongs to this set j, this ideal j, because we want at for all points in this closed interval we want 0. Okay, so fg belongs to j, but f not belongs to j and g also not belongs to j. So we conclude that yeah, j is not a maximal ideal. Okay, so similarly you can argue j also, like for example, like x minus 1 by 3, and if you consider x minus 1 by 3 and x minus 2 by 3, this is a product. Okay, so this product belongs to j. Okay, because they vanish at both 1 by 3 and 2 by 3, but individually they are not belongs to j. Okay, x minus 1 by 3 will vanish at 1 by 3, but it won't vanish at 2 by 3. Similarly for this thing. Okay, so therefore j is not a prime ideal. Now if you look at instead of you can just take even any alpha, set of all f belongs to C01 such that f of alpha equal to 0 for alpha belongs to close 0 comma 1, arbitrary fixed close element of close 0 comma 1, then this is a maximal ideal. Okay, so this is a very standard result. You can check topics in algebra, Ian Hestin. So this is a maximal ideal. Maximal ideals are prime ideals. Okay, so we get this is true. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, so W is set of all 3 by 3 matrices which are skew symmetric and the sum of the entries in the first row equal to 0. Write down a basis for W. Okay, first let's see how the elements looks like in this subspace W. So for some, now it is a skew symmetry. So whenever you have a here, it should be minus a here. Also, you want some of the entries in the first row to be 0. Okay, if it is skew symmetric, diagonal elements are has to be 0, because skew symmetric means that aij equal to minus aji, in particular aii equal to minus aii. This means that the number which is equal to its negative has to be is 0. So this is 0. Now, since some of the entries in the first row has to be 0, this entry has to be minus a. Whatever a, this is minus a. So whatever you have here, this here should be you have negative of this. So this is minus a and this is plus a. Here you don't have any condition. Only condition is if you have a b here, it should be minus b because of skew symmetricity. Okay, so there are only two independent variables. One is a. Once this a is fixed, all these positions are fixed. Once you fix a b, this position is fixed, so remaining things are 0. Therefore the dimension of the space W is 2. And so if we need a basis, so basically you look at the free dependency positions among the variables. These positions are dependent, so we put minus 1 1 minus 1 1, and these two positions are dependent, so we put 1 minus 1. These two vectors form a basis. Okay, so this is a very interesting problem. So let's move on. A belongs to a 5 by 5 complex matrices, set of all 5 by 5 complex matrices. So a square minus 1 the whole square equal to 0. So we assume that A is not a diagonal matrix. Which of the following statements are true? First statement, they are saying that A is diagonalizable. So now A satisfies the polynomial x square minus 1 the whole square equal to 0. So what we know? So in this lecture, MA of x means minimal polynomial. Similarly, PA of x, that is a standard notation used in the NBHM questions paper, characteristic polynomial. PA of x equal to characteristic polynomial. So we know that minimal polynomial of A divides any polynomial satisfied by A. Therefore, minimal polynomial of A should divide this polynomial. Okay. So now one possible divisor of this polynomial is x square minus 1. So minimal polynomial could be this polynomial. If minimal polynomial is this polynomial, then all those matrices will satisfy this relation. Okay. So any matrix whose minimal polynomial is x square minus 1, that matrix will satisfy x square minus 1. Also it satisfies any multiple of this polynomial also by definition. Okay, because if this will 0, so we don't need to worry about whatever here. You can multiply it by any polynomial here. Okay, this will vanish. So in particular, if this is minimal polynomial, that matrix A will satisfy this condition also. But if the minimal polynomial is this polynomial, then it is product of distinct linear factors, so matrix will be diagonalizable. Similarly, if uh, if but minimal polynomial could be again the same polynomial x square minus 1 the whole square. This is also possible. Okay, Now if this is minimal polynomial, then like you see this is equal to uh, x plus 1 the whole square into x minus 1 the whole square. Therefore, the distinct eigenvalues of A are 1 and minus 1. Okay. So, if you know little bit Jordan canonical form, you can write down a matrix that is whose minimal polynomial is this one. For example, this matrix has a minimal polynomial equal to this matrix. Okay. So, I have made two videos on Jordan canonical form, complete the description through lot of examples and the problems. So I have added the description of that videos in the I have added the link to that videos in the description. Please check. Okay. Therefore, we conclude that if a matrix satisfying this condition, then sometime it is diagonalizable, but sometime it is not diagonalizable because minimal polynomial is split. It is not split into distinct linear factors. Okay. This is not splitting into linear factors. Therefore, we conclude that no conclusion can be drawn about the diagonalizability of A. That is the option. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So let's look at this matrix. So W is eigenspace corresponds to the eigenvalue 2 for this matrix. Construct a linear functional phi on R cube such that at x naught this vector the function should take value 1 everywhere else, and the W it should be 0. Okay. So consider the eigenspace corresponds to the eigenvalue 2. If we solve that, if we find the eigenspace, you will get the eigenspace is equal to A is 0 such that A belongs to R. Okay. So now this is the W. Now any linear functional means it is going from codomain is the field R. Okay. So F is R cubed R. Then any linear functional is given by of the form Ax plus By plus Cz. Okay. Now like this is immediate, like you can see uh, like if you know something some little bit of inner product, then you know why this is true, why every linear function should be of the form Ax plus By plus Cz for some ABC. But here if it is R power 4, then you have to add some D times W also, and so on. Okay. Now f this linear functional should vanish in W. Okay. So we take a vector here and we put we substitute the that vector here and equate it to 0. For example, we take the vector 1 1 0 here, and so if you substitute 1 1 0 here, what will get? You get A plus B equal to 0, in particular A equal to minus B. Similarly, we want our linear functional to take the value 1 in the vector 1 2 3, so we substitute it. So if you substitute 1 2 3 in this equation, you get A plus 2B plus 3C equal to 1. So if you simplify, now you substitute A equal to minus B here, and if you simplify, you get 3C minus 1. Therefore, our required linear functional is any linear functional Ax plus Cy plus Cz. F of x equal to Ax plus By plus Cz satisfying A equal to minus B and 3C minus A equal to 1. Okay, so this is the final answer. Okay, so let's move on. Let V be a finite dimensional vector space over R and F and G be two non-zero linear functions on V such that f of x greater than or equal to 0. Whenever f of x greater than 0, we have g of x greater than or equal to 0. This is an important problem. It is asked many times. Okay. So we claim that kernel of f contained in kernel of g. First, using that we prove that f equal to alpha g. If f equal to alpha g, even we have kernel of f equal to kernel of g. Okay, so all the three options are true. Let's see why is it the case. So we claim that kernel of f is contained in kernel of g as a first option. So let x belongs to kernel of f. Okay, if now kernel of f is a subspace. So if x belongs to kernel of f, then minus x will also belongs to kernel of f. Now if x belongs to kernel of f, then f of x equal to 0. If f of x equal to 0 from the given condition, g of x also greater than or equal to 0. Okay, that is what it is given. Whenever f of x greater than or equal to 0, g of x also greater than or equal to 0. Right. Now since minus x belongs to kernel of f of minus x equal to 0, therefore g of minus x is also greater than or equal to 0, but g of x is minus g of x. Okay, so minus g of x is greater than or equal to 0. So g of x is also greater than or equal to 0, minus g of x is also greater than or equal to 0, means that g of x is equal to 0. Okay, Great. So we conclude that if we take an arbitrary element x belongs to kernel of f, we proved that g is also vanishing. So kernel of f is contained in kernel of g. Now, since f is a non-zero linear functional, it is given that f is an f and g are non-zero linear functionals. So there is a point x naught belongs to R and such that f of x naught is not equal to 0. Okay. Now we look at this vector y equal to x minus f of x by f of x naught times x naught. This is a vector in Rn. We calculate f of y. Okay. So f of y will be f of x. This is a scalar. So we get f of x naught. Okay. So f of x minus f of x by f of x naught, f of x naught, this cancel, this cancel, so we get 0. This implies that y is belongs to kernel of G. Note that this x is an arbitrary vector. For arbitrary x belongs to Rn, we construct this vector, and this y belongs to kernel of G. By the we prove that kernel of f contained in kernel of G. So if f of y equal to 0, then y belongs to kernel of f. If f belongs to kernel of f, if y belongs to kernel of f, then y belongs to kernel of g also. That means that g of y equal to 0. So now g of this element I am calculating. G of x minus f of x naught minus g of x naught equal to 0. This means that g of x equal to f of x naught by g of x naught times f of x. This x is arbitrary. So if I take alpha to be this number, I get g equal to alpha times f. Okay. If g equal to alpha times f, then they will have the same kernel also. So all these options are true. Okay. So let's move on. So f and g be defined on R by f of x equal to 1 if x is rational, 0 if x is irrational. This is basically Dirichlet function. And g of x equal to 1 if x greater than or equal to 0, 0 if x less than 0. Which of the following statements are true? The function f is continuous almost everywhere. This is not true because Dirichlet function is nowhere continuous. Uh, for example, let's see quickly, we see why it is not true. So we claim that this function is nowhere continuous on R. So take a x belongs to R. We assume that if x is rational. If x is irrational, similar argument is work. If x is rational, then f of x equal to 1. Let xn be a sequence of irrational numbers converging to this point x. Okay. If xn's are irrational, then their image will be 0. Therefore, this image sequence is 0 for all n. So 0 sequence will converge to 0. But f of x is 1. Okay. But if xn is continuous at the point x, then xn converges to x should imply f of xn should converge to f of x, right? But f of xn is not converging to f of x here. F of x is 1, but f of xn is converges to 0. So similarly, you can argue that f is not continuous at any irrational point also by considering sequence of rational numbers. Okay. Now, option B is that the function f is equal to a continuous function almost everywhere. Again, almost everywhere means these two functions should agree outside a set of measure 0. Okay. So, set of measure 0, if you don't know, just assume that it is a finite set or countably infinite set. They are examples of measure 0 sets, but there are uncountable sets of measure 0 also. For example, Cantor set. But anyway, let's see what we do for option B. Option B is true because if you consider the constant function 0, okay, you look at the constant function 0 and we look at set of all points at which our given function f of x is not equal to 0, that is rationals. Only at rationals our function is not taking 0. Therefore, outside 0, outside rationals, our function same as 0 function. Under rationals, it is countably infinite, therefore it is set of measure 0. So except this set of measure 0, our function is identically 0. Therefore, f of x is equals to the constant function 0 almost everywhere. Therefore, constant function 0 is continuous function. Therefore, this option is true. Now, the function g is equal to a continuous function almost everywhere. That is not true because if you see, this is here rational, irrational, and this rational is a set of measure 0. But this here we are considering close 0, open infinity. This is open minus infinity comma 0. These two sets are not measure 0 sets. None of them are measure 0 sets. So we cannot find a continuous function which, for example, constant function 1 and constant function and 1 and this function, they are not equal at minus infinity comma 0. For example, let all this point constant function 1 and this function not matching, but this is a measure infinity. Okay, but again if you look at the constant function 0, constant function 0 and this function is mismatching at open 0 comma infinity. Again this is also a pass set with a positive measure, even it is measure infinity. Okay, but therefore this option is false. They are not matching with any of the constant function outside a measure 0, but this function matches with the constant function 0 outside rationals. Rational is measure 0. Okay, so that is the argument. So let's move on. So f and be a sequence of non-negative continuous function defined and closed 0, 1. Assume that f and 10 f for every x belongs to closed 0, 1. Which of the following conditions imply that the limit and the integrations can be interchanged? Okay, note that this f of x equal to this f of x is nothing but limit n tend to infinity fn of x. Okay, so basically this statement means that limit of the integral equal to integral of the limit. Okay, so first option is fn of x suppose increases to f of x, then can you interchange the limit and integration? That is precisely the statement of monotone convergence theorem. Please check what is monotone convergence theorem. Similarly, if fn of x is less than or equal to f of x, then can you interchange the limit and integration? Yes, that is called dominating convergence theorem. Okay, therefore by this important theorem, this is true and option C is false. If fn sequence of continuous functions and if the limit function also continuous, doesn't mean that you can interchange the limit and the integration. For example, you consider fn of x equal to nx time 1 minus x square whole power n in the interval close 0 comma 1, and you please check the principles of mathematical analysis Rudin. He has worked out these two things. Okay, for example, fn tends to 0 function. Okay, therefore this side integration is 0, but if this side if you integrate this function and if you let limit tend to infinity, you will get 1 by 2 this side. Therefore this is a counter example to option C. Okay, so let's see next option. Let x comma d be a metric space and xn be a sequence in x. Define a sequence yn by yn minus y 2n minus 1 equal to x, y 2n equal to x. Okay, so like yeah, so we are given a sequence xn and we are given a point. We are define a new sequence like this x1, maybe like in odd places you want xn x1 1, sorry x1, given a sequence and given a point, I define a new sequence like this x3 x. So in at the yeah, at every even places I am inserting x. Okay, and keep the other sequence points as it is. Okay, so now which of the following statements are true? If xn tend to x, then this new sequence is Cauchy. If the sequence is Cauchy, then this sequence is convergent. If f from x to x be a mapping that maps Cauchy sequence to Cauchy sequence, then f is continuous. This problem is asked in CSIR June 2014 also. You see already it is discussed very detailedly in this my another video in my channel. So please check if f is continuous, then and xn is a Cauchy sequence, whether f of xn is Cauchy and so on. But in this problem we have discussed this first two options also. Okay, it is very important in NBHM CSIR, sorry, NBHM interview problem. So please check my video. Okay, so I 20 problem is taking it's a big video, so I split it into 10 10 10 in 100 videos. First video we made it 10 20, now 10, then 31 to 40 I'll upload in the next video sometime soon. Okay, so if you like the this video, please click the like button and share with your friends and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.